The second summon unit is here, and I'll use her for a while now. In this video, I'll explain how she works, show you some rotations, and also help you decide whether it's worth getting a 5-star weapon. So let's talk about our kit first. Our kit is interesting and also actually a little bit complicated to understand and use. So at A0, she can enter the surf state after using a skill 3, then you spend SP to launch fallout attacks. She has 200 max SP, and at the start of battle she starts with 0, and then she gains SP at the start of every ally's turn, and the SP is 15 and it can scale up depending on your SP recovery. And then you also get some bonus effect based on number of SP you restored, and these buffs are permanent buff. Once you hit 400 SP, you have all of this. You have attack buff, damage buff, crit rate, crit damage buff. And typically you can get all these in after second turn, so it's pretty fast. The skill 1 is an AoE attack that has a chance to freeze, and then she will restore her own SP by 40. Can also be affected by SP recovery, and then this can overkill, so it can go above your 200 max SP cap. Skill 2 is an AoE ice also. Then when the surf is active, for each stack, the offshore stack you have, increase this skill's damage by 10%. This stack can stack up to 4 times at A0, so it's plus 40 at max stacks. And after you activate this skill, you will remove the surf state, then remove all the stacks. And this skill is counted as a resonance. So some of the resonance buffs will get applied to this skill. Skill 3 will remove spiritual elements, so like the sleep, fear, all that stuff. Then you enter the surf state. And if you want, you can manually remove this state. Though not really recommended. Like, why would you do that? You will only really do that during Devour Dreams, because you don't want to kill the boss too fast, or that's more like an A6 thing. But yeah, anyways, you can actually disable it and then use other skill if you want to. Yeah, during this state, you will nullify down spiritual elements and certain unable attack effects, which is kind of like immune to stuff. But she cannot use melee attack, she cannot use gun or any items. She also extend the duration of buffs and debuffs applied by 1 turn. This is pretty nice actually. It's actually quite important that they give her this. I'll explain a bit later. Then at the end of ally's turn, she will launch a resonance called the Catch of Wave, and then for each Catch of Wave that she does, she gains an offshore stack. And then for each offshore stack, this resonance does 5%, plus 5% skill multiplier. So it's 50.2, then it plus 5, plus 55.2, set up to 4 times, so it can become 70.2. But the catch is you increase the SP cost by 30. This is a resonance and does not decrease down points. So basically how this Catch of Wave thing works is that after using skill 3, and when you have enough SP, you will launch a fallout attack after every ally moves, including her own, assuming the surf state is still active. And you will only use it if you have enough SP. So if you have 4 stacks, you need 150 SP. It's actually 30 times 5, because by default, this skill will use up 30 SP. And then 4 stacks, that's 120, so 30 plus 120, that's 150 SP. I'll talk a bit about SP recovery stuff later. Then the highlight does damage basically, and it does more damage when it's surf state. Very generic highlight. It just does damage. First passive, she will increase the attack based on her SP recovery, so 280% gives you 98% attack. So you do want to at least hit 280% SP recovery. Then when surf is active, she has 30% more damage, so that's nice. The weapon, I'll skip the weapon for now. I have an entire section dedicated to it. We are A1, you will decrease the SP cost of Catch of Wave, the resonance, and then you increase the max stacks by 2. So this allows you to do more damage and also decrease the SP cost. So you plus 2 stacks, but actually I don't think it even increased. I think it actually becomes cheaper because of this 40%. That allows you to do more fallout attacks. And then this one is actually a mistranslation. This is actually when you use a skill 3, not when surf is active. When you use a skill 3, extend the duration of all buffs and debuffs applied by 1 turn. So it's when you click the skill 3, not when you use a skill during skill 3. That's this difference there. Let's say if Sour Puppet has a Rebellion buff, and it's 2 turns, you press the skill 3, you activate the surf thing, it will extend from 2 turns to 3 turns. That's what this means. For A2, when the surf is active, you increase her crit damage by 20%, so that's 3 damage. Then every 4 times the Wavecatcher Wave activates, you will activate another Catcher Wave without spending SP, and this one doesn't really consume any stack. So basically just 3 damage every time you do damage 4 times. For A4, every time after using highlight, you increase resonance damage by 30% for 2 turns. And for A6, she now has 450 SP, max SP. Then on start of battle, she will have full SP. Then she will immediately enter the surf state and increase the offshore stacks by 2, so now you have 8 stacks. On top of that, the skill 1 will now increase SP recovered by 50%. And for skill 2, you will not exceed the surf state after using the skill, but you still lose the offshore stacks. However, when the stocks are lost, you recover max SP. What this A6 means is that your serve state is permanent. You get it the moment you enter battle and you never leave it unless you manually click skill 3 and remove it. You won't really do this unless it's like Devour Dreams where you don't want to kill the boss too fast. But now I want to talk about the buff, because well, Sega didn't even tell us what buff she got. But I will let you know, because I have the information. First thing I want to say is that during my live stream, I said that skill 1 was nerfed. That was false. The reason why I thought it was nerfed was because, I mean, you can look at my previous video. Preferred.net I think actually got a number wrong, because before this update, the site actually had 178.7 for the skill 1 also. So I think that they accidentally copied the number to the skill 1. So I thought it went from 178.7 to 200.7. Yeah, skill 1 the same, skill 2 the same, skill 3 actually also the same. The only buff that she got was the highlight damage and the A0. I will show you the buff now. So the buff was to highlight. The highlight actually got a pretty big buff, like 110% more. Then another like 18% here. Quite a big buff, though still a big portion of the damage isn't really from the highlight. Another buff is the A0. Now it buffs more attack and buffs more damage. So these are, I guess, just nice buffs. Nothing game breaking or crazy, just some number tweaks. Now I want to talk about SP recovery. I'll be honest here, I gave up calculating the freaking SP recovery. It's very complicated. And I currently have my SP recovery around 340, actually 345% in battle. I think 340% is good enough. Because I mean, according to Wavecatcher, 337 is the highest. So if you are like 340, you don't need to worry about missing resonance. But to be fair, honestly, even with 340%, if you use like a 3112 rotation or even 312, you will still miss a few resonance. You need like probably 400% plus in order to have resonance for every single action, which is not really worth it, I think, because you want to get the high SP recovery into sacrifice your other stats. So like lesser crit damage, lesser crit rate, lesser piece rate, not really worth it. So I think a good spot to stop is 340%. Now let's talk about the weapon. So the 4-star weapon buffs attack and then buffs more attack during serve, kinda whatever. Too much attack already. The 5-star weapon increases crit damage 36.3% by doing absolutely nothing. And resonance crit rate increased by 16.4%, also not too bad. Then when you spend SP to activate skill resonance, increase her damage by 6.8% up to 5 times. So that's like what, 34%? So 36 crit damage, about 34 damage and then 16.4% crit rate. Sounds pretty amazing, right? It's actually good. So as always, I've tested it and here's the result. So it is fine. The thing is, it buffs crit rate. Well, it sounds good. If your crit rate is already capped, like, you know, these two tests both are crit cap, the value decreases a lot. So 13, not crazy. A lot of weapons these days can hit like 15 and up. But again, it's because I can hit the crit cap, and it's also quite easy. All you need to do is like just swap the Miku and change it from crit damage to crit rate. Then you can easily reach the crit cap. If you cannot reach the crit cap, you struggle, then I think this can go up to like 20%. Very, very high. But yeah, it's another case of crit rate. Whether you cap or not. If you can cap it, the weapon value decreases. So now, what is the best rotation for Summon Puppet? Wavecatcher has a lot of rotations and stuff, and honestly, I don't have a definitive answer. I think it'll depend on your team. I think your navigator will decide a lot also. The first one I'll show you is Summon Marian, then after that I'll show you Turbo. And it will also give you an idea on which support is better for Summon Puppet, Summon Marian or Turbo. So the first test I did was using a 3-2-3-2 rotation. Got me almost 400 million, which is pretty good actually. Okay, before that, don't copy this rotation. This rotation is not optimized at all. Okay, not exactly the best rotation. I was just doing like a test run to try and compare like the best Summon Puppet rotation. And also with Miku, I haven't tested with Anj yet. I think Anj will have like a different rotation also. So it's gonna depend. So for Miku, 3-2-3-2 is not too bad. But there's actually like two problems for this. Technically really only one, but the first problem is that by using a skill 3, skill 2, there's gonna be like turns like this turn, and this turn, where you don't have the serve state active, so you're gonna miss the resonance, so you can do less damage. But it's also not exactly a problem because the skill 2 does a good damage. The 3 million, 6 million, 8 million, 8 million. Pretty good damage. This like 8 million is literally like one entire turn of resonance, so it kind of compensates for the lack of resonance in between turns. So that's not a problem. The bigger problem, I think, since you are in the serve state in less time, you have a smaller window to cast your buffs. For example, the Summon Marian here doesn't get extended because I haven't used the skill 3. This turn is not the serve turn. It's not the serve turn. This one, Fire Ice Highlight, is also not during the serve turn, so I don't get extended buff. And that makes things a little bit less consistent because you're gonna miss some buffs. So I wouldn't exactly recommend doing a 3-2 rotation. I could be wrong though. There could be some certain scenario where 3-2 is the best option, but for this team, not really. The next rotation is a 3-1 then 2 rotation. This is the worst one I found so far. Do not do this, especially for Miku. For Anj is probably okay, but for Miku don't do it. So this rotation has some problem. The first one is that you only do one skill 2. Like I showed just now, the skill 2 does good damage. So you only use it one time. And then the problem with the skill 1 is that the skill 1 is not a resonance, unlike the skill 2. Skill 1 is not resonance, which means that it doesn't get the crit rate buff from your weapon, your 5-star weapon. And it also doesn't get the buff from the cards, the resonance attack damage increase, whatever, then the crit damage resonance stuff. Besides that, the skill 1 also has low skill multiplier to begin with. But the skill 1 will just do very little damage. And if you use like 5 times in a row, that's like 5 times of low damage. Even though you have more uptime of your resonance, and even though you can use SP. But even if you use SP, there's going to be turns where you don't have resonance like this turn. I have 345% SP recovery in battle. You see that this entire action, no resonance, because not enough SP. You see that damage number. Damage number means that there's a resonance. So definitely don't do this. I don't see any reason how this is good. The next one, slightly better. It's also a bunch of skill 1 here, but I skill 2 during the Miku skill 3, the last Miku skill 3 turn here. This one is better. It's actually very close to the 3-2-3-2 rotation. It's actually slightly worse. Like 2 million less, which is probably due to damage variance, so it's very close. This one, you see the skill 2 did 8.7 million, very good damage. Then after this I thought like, okay, since changing to skill 2 gives me more damage, what if I do another skill 2? Which is what I did for this next rotation. I did a 3-2, then 3-1-1-2, then 3-2, so there's 3 skill 2s now. And this one got me higher, 8 million higher, which is not like that much higher, but it's higher. The skill 2 here allows you to just do more damage, 3 million, which is higher than this entire resonance. So since I saw that this was the best one I ever had, I just used this rotation for the optimization, because like I said just now, the rotations I'm showing, like this rotation, the last few rotations I show is not the most optimized one. I was just testing to see which sound puppet rotation is the best one. So for the optimized one, the best one that I found was this one, 427 million with optimized stuff. The skill 2 even did 10 million damage, which is very high. This is the highest I've done with an A0 DPS. So let me just explain what this rotation is doing. For Miku's rotation, pretty standard stuff, I don't need to explain. So Sour Marian is a 3-2-1, 3-2, then an attack item, then 3-1. This skill 1 will last all the way until here, so I just skill 1 here. This skill 2 will also last until the end, even without the extension buffos actually, because the skills you use, the buffing skill you use during the Miku skill 3 turn doesn't count down. So this skill 2 will be 4 turns. Technically 5 turns now because of the buff extension, but we only reach until 8 turns. Yeah, anyways, the resonance item, damage item, this will last for 3 turns each. Okay, actually technically damage item will last until the end, because again it doesn't count down during the Miku turn. Then resonance item in the end. The Marian highlight is kinda important, because it just buffs the item effect, right? So the item buffs more. In Twins highlight, nothing much. Okay, actually there's something you need to be careful when you're doing this. Make sure you knock down all enemies during the skill 3 turn, the Miku skill 3 turn, ideally on the first turn of Miku skill 3, so turn 5. Because the opponents can be knocked down, and if you knock down enemies, they take 10% more final damage. So you want to knock them down, you want to time them right. So the skills from the twins, you need to time them well. Because the Jack-o'-lantern are weak to both of the skills, and the Cert is weak to the ice skill. So just time things accordingly. Under rotation, Marakunda here will last until here, then Marakunda will last until the end. This is Sahi, which is a sharp persona. I use it here. I mean, it's probably better to use it here because of the skill multiplier, the point multiplier, MLD, right? The turn is like 1.5 times multiplier. But if I do this, my revolution is going to be here, then I will have like 1 less turn. Then Sahi here will last until the end. Revolution, Tarukaja for the buff. So before I forget, I want to talk about the buff extension from Sound Puppet. The buff extension is actually very useful, but I'm still doing like a 3 turns like revolution, then I 3 turns here. Why I do this and not just delay 1 more turn, because I have 4 turns, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason why I still do like a 3 turn gap is because I need to refresh the crit rate for like this turn, for example. It's just in case there's a resonance. Okay, for this case, there's no resonance, so it doesn't matter much. So imagine that I actually have a resonance here. Imagine this is skill 3 from Puppet. That's a resonance. If I revolution here, then I skip the revolution. The revolution will end after this turn, because 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then the resonance I do here don't have the crit buff, which means they'll do less damage. For this case, it doesn't matter much because there's no resonance here, but if there's resonance, it's better to still keep the 3 turn gap, just to keep everything like uptime, all the buff uptime. And it's actually good that the devs actually thought about this, because that like one buff extension is like very intentional actually. if only Fox also got that. Or maybe they learned the lesson from Fox because Fox is the first to move. The buff will count down even though she doesn't attack because he has skill 3 to prepare for counter attack, right? And yeah, I think that's about it. Then okay, the Dinosaur's highlight here is very nice. It lasts until the end because buff extension, right? From the skill 3. Marian, this one also lasts 3 turns. Twins sadly only last until here. So now I'll talk about turbo rotation. And the highest I got is 408.6, which is lower than the Marian just now, 427. So that is not really surprising to me. Because well, I mean, I know people say that, oh, you need pierce rate to run turbo, but the thing is, I said this many times already, I think, in my videos. AoE bosses, they don't favor defense debuff as much, even though if you don't cap defense at all, if you don't cap defense at all, pierce actually loses value. So let me just show you what I mean. So here's the defense calculation. Let me just put Sword, Jack-o'-lantern, because it's a minion that takes more damage, because there's like 4 of them, I guess. If let's say I have 20% pierce, you will see that my final damage is 8.7. If I have 80% pierce already, then I increase to 100. Now it's 47.4, it becomes 67.2. It increases by 20%. Just now 20% was on 8.7. You see the difference? 8.7 and 20%. So the closer you reach the defense cap, the more valuable pierce becomes. So if you actually don't have any pierce at all, it's actually worse to use pierce, if that makes sense. It's good if you have like a lot of pierce. If you're using Ange, then maybe turbo might be better because Ange gives like 30% pierce. So it really depends on the team. Not saying pierce is bad, just that it's less worth for an AoE DPS. And just to give you some even more context, if I have 100% pierce for AoE, it's 67.2. The main boss is 151, which is kind of whatever. Then if you look at single target boss, it's like 236. You see the jump from like 67, from 67 literally to 236. Then Fafnir, 279. Atavaka, 236, 279. That's why single target bosses prefer defense debuff than AoE. And one more thing about turbo, I think there's some misconception that people have that if you bring turbo, you're gonna do more resonance. That is not really true. It's kind of true on paper, right? More actions, more resonance. Not really, because think about it. If you have more extra action, it means that you need more SP to trigger the resonance. If you don't believe me, you can literally just look at Luffy very quick. You see that Ange and Ange Turbo both are 15 resonance. Navigator and Navigator Turbo both 14 resonance. So it doesn't even increase the resonance. But what it does is reduce your SP recovery requirement. You see it decreases like 40%. So if that's something, if you struggle, like struggle to hit SP recovery, then maybe you can just run Turbo instead of Sound Marian. So yeah, just a misconception. More action doesn't mean more resonance if you don't increase your SP recovery. That being said, let's talk about the actual rotation. So this is actually a very interesting rotation, especially from Turbo. You probably already noticed something very strange here. But yeah, Turbo, skill 2, skill 1. The skill 1 will last for 3 turns because of the extension, so it lasts until here. So that's why I can skill 1 here again. Skill 2, skill 2. I do a double skill 2, the reason is because I don't want to break the down points too fast. So this rotation is a bit specific so that I will break everything on this turn. Not break, but like I will knock down all enemies on this turn, which is a Miku skill 3, which is what you want. So on this skill 2, I'll do big damage. Not as big as, Marian. Marian is like 10 million, right? It's 8 million already. Okay, another reason why some Marian is better is just because the item. The item are pretty strong. Resonance item especially, it's a straight up final damage multiplier. And the crazy thing is I actually managed to squeeze like 7 highlights also, compared to like the 6 only from Marian. But yeah, this turn is where all the enemies get knocked down. Then you will see that I actually do a skill 3 here, which is a bit strange because usually you skill 3 during the big damage turn, which is this turn. But I can do this because of the buff extension. It lasts for 2 turns now. And since the buffing skill that you use during Miku skill 3 doesn't count down, this skill 3, enhanced skill 3 by the way, the high pierce, will last for 4 turns. It will last all the way until here. And because it lasts until the end, I can do a double skill 1 here for more damage and knock down points. So it's very interesting rotation actually. And I also make sure that all the buffs are 100% uptime. For the skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, everything up 100%. And then another thing, Fire Ice highlight. Make sure you use it before the skill 3. Then you can use it again here. So entire turn, you have Fire Ice highlight. Then entire turn also have Turbo highlight. This is actually something I only realized recently with the Turbo highlight. If you use Turbo highlight during the DPS turn or whoever's turn, then they move, they actually don't count down. So this Turbo highlight will be 3 turns because of the puppet extension. So technically it will last until here, but it will last until here because it doesn't count down after this turn. The countdown isn't because of Miku, it's because of just how Turbo highlight works. I don't know if it's supposed to work like that at all, it's a bug, but it will last until the end. So literally these entire 4 turns have all the pierce buff, It has all the Fire Eyes Turbo highlight, Diagonalizer highlight, also everything. It still scores less than Marian. Everything else is about the same. Actually, the crit rate, I need more crit rate because, Turbo doesn't have crit, so there's Rebellion and Revolution, so there's no more Marakunda from the cert. So finally, should you pull Summer Puppet? So she's a DPS, she's a nice sweeper. We already have an ice sweeper in the game, Fox, though she's not very good right now. And actually I think that Summer Puppet will beat Fox by like 2 times. I think she's like 2 times stronger. The problem with Fox is that she scales defense. All the recent buffers, they don't really buff defense, so Fox doesn't really benefit much. That being said, Fox is also getting a Mindscape Core soon, which would put him better than Summer Puppet, but Summer Puppet still haven't get a Mindscape Core, so when she gets it, maybe she'll be better than a Mindscape Core Fox. But yeah, this is DPS. DPS always power creep each other. So just pull if you like her, if you need sweeper, just pull. If not, no need to pull.